So yeah, this is the second episode of A Beer with Burley. My name is Brian Burley. I have Dale Austin joining me today. Thank you for hopping on.
No worries, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here. Today we're going to review Mango Cart from Golden Road. This is an interesting beer to open. It looks like I don't know if you saw this.
I'm not sure. Is it electrical tape? Safety first. This is a COVID-19 secure wrapping.
So, have you been to Golden Road before?
So it's hilarious. Obviously, as you may or may not kind of know, we live like a block and a half from it, and it's where our old Posh Pooch location used to be, my wife's business. And we never went because when we had to move our store, we were like all bitter about it, blah, blah, but I actually really love their beer. So we got this big gift certificate. We got this big gift certificate end of February, right? Melissa's birthday is the 23rd, and we were going to use it. And the week we went to use it, I don't remember what happened. She wasn't feeling well. And then the next week, like, obviously all this stuff happened. So we haven't been able to go. But I've actually been there a ton of times now, going through their drive-through. Love it. Yeah.
So, yeah, I haven't been there. I did pick up today. We both picked up the Golden Road. It's a nice little jug here. They tried to sell me on the 64 ounce. I was like, I can't do that.
264s. The problem is it's warm by the time you get to the bottom. I want to have the whole thing. 32. I didn't know they even sold this size. I'm like, wow, this is kind of just, I think, my new beer size. So
as I said last week, this isn't Get Buzzed with Burley or Get Drunk with Burley. It's A Beer with Burley. Emphasis on A.
It's in one bottle.
So yeah, what we did last week is we split it up into 3 pours. The first pour was the review and like the first topic. And of course, if you have topics, you can bring them in. Otherwise, we just we talk about the typical stuff of the course of the conversation. So we can pour here.
Do it.
Let's see if I do a lot better than last week.
I got a big jar, so I think I did like a pour and a half.
Oh, you're drinking out of a jar?
Yeah.
This is much better than last.
My wife handed me like a Moscow Mule mug, and I'm like, it's gonna taste really weird out of metal. I'm not doing that. I'm not. We're testing gin or something, yeah, but no. So, all right.
Cheers. Hear you. My name is Brian Burley. Are we ready? Oh, you froze for a second. All right, we're good. That's good, man.
It's dangerous. That's just like a summer day right there.
So it's 4%. Last week, you've been to RIP, right?
Mm-hmm.
Last week we reviewed Super Duper Cali. I think it's 9.5%.
Oh
so
my
like
god!
Less than half of this.
It's like a stout. Yeah. Was it dark? What was it?
It wasn't very dark. It was just
a super. Was it really real hoppy?
Yeah. It's taken me a little bit longer in the edits of the third part of that episode. So 4% won't go too crazy. So yeah, we review them on a 10-point scale, which or 100-point scale, 1 out of 10. So you could do like a 5.5 or 9.5 or 0.7. Last week I gave Super Duper Cali a 7.8, and Patrick Ellison, who does video editing with Viral Video Media Group, he gave it a 9 out of 10, 9.0. So we can keep on sipping. We don't have to give a...
Yeah.
It's not a one sip, everybody knows the rules. Like, I don't know if you've seen Barstool Sports.
I have. I've seen Barstool. So, of course, all my friends that are younger than me that are like Barstool experts, they'll be like, you're not doing it right. I'm like, you know what? I'm doing it how I want to do it. I'm just drinking beer how I need.
Good.
It's really good.
You don't even taste the alcohol. I mean, it's 4%, but it's very good.
I've had this once before, like a year ago, but out of a can, and it was amazing. I played in a golf tournament for like my friend does like digital, all the photography and digital marketing for Bristol Farms, so kind of like really nice high-end grocery store. And he needed like a fourth for this golf tournament. We all were terrible, but it's all free. Goes to charity. But I tried it there. It was at one of the holes, and it was like amazing because it's not super heavy. So it's great when the weather's hot. You're not getting, tanked off of it, I'm assuming, because it's 4%, obviously based on body weight, etc. So, yeah.
They were trying to tell me, because they have some good deals going on over there, like get a 6-pack of like 32s, and I'm like, wow, we're just reviewing one beer each. We're not going crazy.
Yeah, they've got 6-packs for $7. And I think they've got like some special like 4-packs that are normally, and they're normally like $14, $15, $17 in the store. So they're really, really like hooking it up for the community and stuff right now for sure.
Yeah, so you ready to give a score, 100-point scale, 1 to 10? We have a little bit of a standard on my side, but whatever you can give it as.
So is it just an overall, or am I giving a grade for color, grade for temperature, grade for sweetness? Is there 10 questions?
Did you watch the first episode where Patrick was like, are we rating the aroma? And I'm like, no, this is not a beer. That's we're just giving it a.
Yes. Gosh.
I think I might have more than Super Duper Galley.
I think you got one of the hardest people to grade something, because in my mind I attempt to simplify things, but I overthink everything. So, grading a lighter colored beer that has some fruit, which I have to at least complicate a little because there's so many different beers out there. I give it an 8.
That's
high 7s to an 8. Yeah.
I'd give it an 8.1. Gotta keep my scale, so I gave Super Duper Cali a 7.8. That was from Rip. This is from Golden Road, the Mango Cart. I'm giving it a 8.1, and you're giving it an 8.0. So go check that out. Check that out at Golden Road Mango Cart.
Yeah, an 8.0, meaning I would definitely get it again. I'd buy it for sure. Yeah. It's not like less than 10. For me, the universal scale is pretty much in anything in life. If it's a 6 or better, it's worth repeating. If you go into the 5s or lower, just don't ever do it again or have it again or whatever it is. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Exactly.
So anybody watching this, if you have any beer requests or guest suggestions or requests, my email's brian@burleytech.com. It'll be at the bottom down here. So 8.0 from you and 8.1 from me for Mango Cart from Golden Road. This is on PCH, pretty much on the edge of Huntington and Seal Beach, but they're a chain. They have them in Anaheim and some other places.
Yeah, I think PCH and Anderson, right across the street from the big water tower house, if everyone knows that. Some people will be like, oh, I'm not even sure. Like you'll say, Sunset Beach, and they're not 100% sure. But the minute you're driving to PCH and you tell them, oh, it's by the big water tower house, then everyone knows it. So yeah. Super rad. You can't miss the colors on the building, obviously. You got their famous blue and yellow on there, right?
Right. Well, let's jump into this now that we've reviewed our beer. So you're free to bring up any topics you have. Typically, I ask people about their story. Obviously, you're in real estate with Compass. Yep. You can tell me, I don't know if you've always lived in Huntington, but what maybe interested you in getting into selling homes. If you have any views on the real estate market.
Oh boy, don't we all?
Tell me what if you always lived in Huntington?
No, so originally, I mean, it's probably what in my mind it's what makes me weird / interesting, I guess. So up until about middle of high school or maybe even like junior year, I lived in South Bay. So like Hermosa Beach, Torrance, Redondo, that whole area. Basically everything between Hawthorne to Torrance is where like almost all of my mom's side and family lived. And then my dad lived down here in Huntington. So obviously once you're in high school, you can drive. So like I could do more, visit more. And of course, the school I went to was nowhere near either. I didn't go to school in the South Bay. I didn't go to school in Huntington. I actually went to school, Valley Christian, which is in Bellflower. And I guess the idea was, one, it was a good school. It was a great school. And two, it was kind of like right in the middle. So no matter what, I've always had a commute. So I've actually always loved driving, which is not technically what got me into real estate, but I mean, like, if you are in real estate and you're meeting clients and touring property, like, you can't be someone that like has road rage. You got to be used to driving and be cool with it. I kind of just segued into it. Real estate's I think I did the math. I think it's my 11th, not necessarily career, because what do you call a career, right? But it's my 11th occupation, I guess. I've been a master mechanic. I was a touring musician for years. I've done, I've worked with.
Did you play?
What's that?
What instrument did you play?
So I was guitar frontman. I wrote music, piano, everything but drums. I mean, you got to know your limits, and I am not a drummer. I can carry a basic tune, but like if you actually get in front of a real drummer and you do not play drums, they're like, stick to the guitar.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, and actually it's funny. This whole time we've had, I don't know how time or period specific the video, should be, but obviously we're kind of in the midst of, 2020, we're doing the quarantine thing, but like.
It'll go out next week. It's not going to go out like
it's going to, so everything's lifted. No, but it's been one of the best times period in our life. So I'm a super quote unquote workaholic. My wife is too. We both run our own businesses and we're involved in each other's businesses. So we haven't spent this much time together since we were 19 or 20. And I was like in between jobs or something. Like we've just never had this much time.
How long have you guys been together, if you don't mind me asking?
So we have been together, I think this is our 17 year. This is my 10-year wedding anniversary this year. Yeah.
That's crazy.
She was.
I always run into her at Posh Pooch.
Yeah.
I pronounce that right, correct?
Everyone, you make it very French. Posh Pooch. So Posh Pooch, poshpoochinc.com.
Yeah.
And actually, one thing we got going during this whole thing, we've had it for a while, but we have kind of a sister site, and you can get to it through Posh Pooch Inc. too, but Posh Pooch Express we've had for quite a while because we do free local delivery. A lot of the other like big internet ones like Amazon and Chewy and stuff like that, there's usually like 24 to 48 hour fulfillment. It comes from a fulfillment center, and obviously for free shipping there's like a minimum because obviously they're freight, etc. So our hyper localized thing, basically we do about a 10-mile radius. So we go up into Long Beach, Los Alamitos, Costa Mesa, Huntington, but any minimum. So you can buy like a $4 dog treat and you'll have it within 24 hours. So this quarantine's been really cool because so many people. Yeah. So I actually put a bunch.
My wife does Posh Pooch, which is in Seal Beach. It used to be right by Golden Road.
Right.
And you do Compass, correct? You're still selling homes and helping people buy homes.
So Compass Real Estate. I run a small team. I've got my main business partner, Sarah, with me. She started as my assistant, and then she was a junior agent. And I've just taught her everything I know and built her up. And I've scaled back a little so that I can spend more time with my family. And it's perfect because it's right when her career in her position with where she's at in real estate is really booming. So now we're kind of this really good dual partnership. So we're actually crazy busy. Last year was incredible. We're actually wildly busy right now. Just obviously in the financial markets, which a lot of people are generally familiar with anyway. Interest rates are amazing. Obviously, there's a lot of incentives going on, both with mortgages and government, et cetera. Of course, not everyone's in the position to, but there's certain jobs, like there's a lot of people that aren't employed right now. We're all waiting to go back to work. Posh Pooch, our own other business, we're currently closed, but we're making the best of it. So I'm taking a little bit of
a couple of weeks ago, right?
Yeah. So we've been closed since the last day we were open was March 16th. So wow. The 16th is when that. So basically, as soon as Newsom said, that's it. You were the last one. So we're open. Yeah, we're going to open again on May 19th. So we've taken this time to actually do a bunch of improvements to the store, wildly restock inventory. We're actually modifying our hours to be open an hour later because we have so many people backlog that want to get in. So we're going to increase staff, increase hours. But so we got 11 days. Is that right? No, 14 days. 4% hitting hard apparently.
Yeah. we lose track of the calendar. I don't know if the 4%'s why you're losing track of the calendar. Every day is kind of just...
No, I don't really know what day it is anymore. The 4% Mango Cart is an amazing Monday beer. You won't be too heavy, and it is delicious and deserved.
So how long have you been doing real estate for?
So I have been doing real estate since 2014, and before that, oh no,
I think you're okay.
Can you see me?
I can see you.
Was I gone for a minute?
I think it half a second freeze.
It just the whole Zoom window went out. Apparently, it didn't like what I said. So
2014.
No, I've been doing real estate since 2014, and I got into it. I deliberately got into it 2 years after we had started Posh, and that was kind of the whole goal, because I actually had a really good government job working for City of Garden Grove that I'd been at for 6-7 years. I was a master mechanic, fire mechanic, worked on all the police and all their fire apparatus. But it was right when we were kind of coming out of / in the middle of the recession. We had a lot of governments and local governments were getting furloughed. And in addition to those furloughs, they were offering like certain, if you were older, they'd offer you kind of like the golden parachute, they'd call it, where they get you some active service years. But I was nowhere near retirement age. I was 20 something. So they were, I can't remember what the exact amount was, but it was basically like a cash check if you just walked away from your job. And the idea was that it wasn't offered to necessarily me. It was offered to everyone basically citywide, because they knew a very small percentage would take it. And they were trying to reduce their employment force. That way their reserve, they could maintain their whatever they needed to as far as the city's income. So I took that money and a little bit of my savings, and that's how we opened Posh. I built that up, and it was funny because during my time at the city, I went and got my second degree actually in business management, because I was moving up working with the city, going to do that whole thing, public works director or something someday, I don't know. But I ended up parlaying that. Yeah, exactly. Now I'm the public dog director instead. So I ended up parlaying that into managing and training staff for our shop, and we've just exponentially grown year over year. What's really wild to think is that Posh still feels kind of new, because we moved our store from Huntington just down the street to Seal Beach. But next year will be our 10-year anniversary, which is pretty wild.
Crazy.
We've had that there. So trained it and staff, and then after about 2 years training staff, and the shop is really, really running well. My father's always been in construction. He's a building inspection supervisor. He was the interim building official. So I've just always been around construction and permitting and design and compliance. And I've always been pretty personable with people. I'm like, well, if I combine the two with my 11 other jobs I've had, I would be maybe useful in real estate, because I know more than just sales and contracts. I know about construction and design and what you can do with electrical and plumbing. So it seems to be doing really well. My business has done well. I needed to bring on other people. I was so busy. So my main partner, Sarah, and then my other gal that's kind of like independent contracting with me, Megan. And I've actually brought on another assistant that actually helps me with real estate, Posh Pooch, any new ventures I do. So I kind of have like my own Dale Austin administrative assistant.
Enterprise.
Yeah. So I actually did Dale Austin administrative assistant.
Enterprise.
Yeah. So I actually did Dale Austin Collection LLC, and then I have 2 different DBAs that come off of that, but that's secret stuff.
Posh Pooch. So it was opening in 2 weeks?
Yeah, about 2 weeks. Yep.
Yeah. So if you have any information that you want to plug, social media or just contact info.
Yeah, so we're pretty big. So for Posh Pooch, it's just at Posh Pooch Inc. INC. And then I think on my video, it's got my name on there too. I'm at DaleAustin.thewolf. And the wolf was kind of this joke. It started from kind of a crude movie topic But I got basically when I was first in real estate, someone called me. They're like, hey, you're kind of like the Wolf of Real Estate, and that literally just stuck as like a nickname. So my license plate is Wolf of Real Estate. I know it's super cheesy, but and then a gym that I used to go to was called Red Wolf. It's a CrossFit gym, super awesome gym, over up at Gothard, kind of by that auto industrial area. But so I've got like a wolf sticker there, Wolf of Real Estate on my license plate, and it's just kind of stuck. So, and
there you go.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah, I guess I didn't notice that on your social medias. So anyone watching, make sure to follow you and reach out if they need their dog's hair trimmed, dog treat, dog nail trim, and buy or sell a home.
Yeah,
you're the one-stop shop for all that.
It's pretty. We do. People would think it's surprising, but I'm not surprised because everything in life is kind of a numbers game. So like it's. I don't mean it in this sense. I heard this as a coin today on like some infographic I was reading. So it sounds terrible coming out of my mouth, but it said the more hands you shake, the more money you make. And I'm like, I don't monetize people that way, but I get the premise of what he's saying. The more relationships you have, the more people that know, like, and trust you, the positioning and opportunity potentially to either make more money. But to me, I think of it more as making success, not necessarily money, because if I'm making more establishments or more connections, success to me is specifically just from, a dollar, because I can always find another dollar. I've already had 11 jobs. Apparently I can find dollars, but I like having the more connections, even like our connection with you. So I love this. This is great.
Absolutely. So I'm ready for second pour. I don't know how you're doing on yours.
Yeah.
I'm ready to pour my second one. These might not last 3 pours.
Golden Road Brewing, everyone.
Yeah, last week I poured it so poorly that it was just half bubbles, the first one. This one isn't.
This goes down pretty easy, though.
Yeah, this is not nearly as powerful as that Super Duper Cali. You've been to Rip, though, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're super close. See, you're next to Rip, and then I'm kind of almost next to Golden Road. So we need like a third brewery in the middle.
Yeah, this will be the brewery strip right down here. So I had a couple questions that we can circle through, and if you have anything you want to talk about, you can of course bring the topics in. I wanted to get your input about how real estate's doing during this whole crisis. I try not to say the C word because we do put our stuff up on YouTube and it's getting pulled down. So what do you think about the market right now with real estate, considering people are out of work? I don't even know what the most recent unemployment numbers are.
100%. So one interesting thing with real estate is that it's very, very, very micro markets. And living in we live in Orange County, in Huntington Beach. The smaller you crush the bubble. Everything from real estate to politics to income to property. How much property costs, and how much what are the kind of jobs that are around, and what they're actually bringing. Obviously, like San Francisco, you've got like all these huge like Google and tech companies, so the income there is higher, as well as obviously all the properties and values, because they know that people can afford it, so it kind of drives the price up. So what's kind of going on right now for real estate, we've really leveled out now. Right after the C word and everything happened over the last the first couple weeks after, right, everyone's like, what's the C word? Google it.
Yeah, we called it the crisis.
Yeah. But the first couple weeks after, it's kind of, to me, it's like kind of like anything. So right after an event or whatever, as a whole, no one knows how to react because they're all reacting too fast. So it was too much. Now everything's kind of normalized and stabilized, and we see that things are, both the curve for the C word as well as for the economy, we at least have an anticipation of where it can shift. So when people have some knowledge, they get a little more comfortable. When everything's unknown, people have fear and panic. So now that we have a little more knowledge, we have literally the best rates we've had since in the last 10, 12 years. So both for purchasing and for refinancing. So I actually deliberately reached out to a ton of my past clients and said, hey, I don't know what what your rate is currently, because I don't know if you refied in the last few years since I've helped you buy and sell, but now is especially important. So it actually got to the point where the mortgagers and financiers had so many applications, they had to just basically stop accepting applications.
Well, then
so now, and now they've opened back up. So really anybody that was able to work from home or had a decent job where they weren't like completely out of work, all of those people are in an amazing position to take advantage of the dip in the rates. And a lot of information we've seen from the economic information, as well as from what the Fed has said it's going to do, it doesn't anticipate raising rates whatsoever for basically the next 6 to 12 months. So what's that going to mean for people that that are, say, out of work right now? Once work picks back up, we're hoping, whether it be middle of May, end of May, early June, it's still going to be really, really, really good as far as the cost of money, aka interest rates. The cost of money is still going to be super low for the next 6 to 12 months. So yeah, the whole world and the whole nation that we have obviously had a little bit of a hiccup. So people can think, in a normal time, a creditor or a mortgager is going to look at your employment history and see they didn't work for these 2 months. In this realm that we're in right now, though, everyone's going to have some kind of lateral, like, okay, this went on in life. The whole nation had it. It's kind of a wash, You still have 2 years of job history, and then they'll show that 75% or whatever the number is of America took a 3-month vacation. We're Italy right now. Everyone's taking naps and drinking wine at 4 p.m. or something. I don't know. I hear they take naps there, and I wish I was there. That's all I know.
Yeah, I haven't been there. I'm not too sure. That sounds nice, though.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not? Are you seeing a dip in people trying to sell homes and buy homes?
So an interesting thing my partner Sarah and I have seen. So a few people that have been interested in listing are definitely more hesitant. What has picked up, buyer activity has picked up, but seller activity has dipped. So and what's interesting is you'd think normally, like in a traditional supply demand, less sellers, more buyers, you'd think that in that like normal sense, like, oh, then it would be more of a seller's market. Well, at the same time, people don't know how to act or behave during everything that's going on. So it's really not inflating prices. So we're seeing people that were already planning to sell their home, because usually you don't just sell your home and you don't think about it, in 1 week and boom, you're on the market. Usually people have been thinking of it's like car shopping or shopping for a house. You've been dwelling on it and window shopping in your head for months and months and months. Then you finally get in touch with someone. They meet you. They go through your house. Your house is either turnkey or you need a few weeks or a couple months to, patch up some paint and get it ready for selling. So a lot of people that are on the market and actually selling right now, they were already planning this in December through January, probably before the holidays, because no one really thinks about doing stuff like that during holidays. So they've been thinking about it since third, fourth quarter. Now they're rolling it into now. It's funny because spring is normally a lot of listing activity. What you're going to see is when everything opens back up, all those people still want to sell their houses, because Sarah and I have been showing houses where lately a few houses have been basically virtual toured. And it's kind of interesting how they're doing it. Basically, the seller jumps on a live video or FaceTime type of video sharing app, and they're live touring you through the house with you speaking on the other end. And they're doing that as obviously like an ultra precaution of not having, a ton of foot traffic, hand traffic, people sneezing and coughing, whatever.
To still get in-person walkthrough if you really wanted it? I mean, you're making a big purchase.
Yeah, right? No, there definitely is. So I've had 3 levels of what I would call showings, and we just did some this last week where a couple of the houses, I wore like a mask when I was in the house, respectfully, and there's only 2 or 3 of us total in the house at any time. Another version was a virtual tour where we didn't actually get to go in, but we went out to the property and we were literally, it's funny because we're standing on the driveway looking at the exterior of the house while the homeowner's inside video touring us through. It's kind of like ultra bubble, basically. And then the third version is some properties are just vacant where the sellers don't live there and they don't mind at all. So we weren't required to wear masks or anything like that at all. Obviously, if you're sick, stay home, don't go out, etc. And that should just go for year round. I always thought it was funny when pre all of this happening, like people go to work and they're like, I'm so sick. It's like, oh, please go home. Like I'd like to not be sick.
That might be one of the things that changes in society. I know, like the last couple of years, and where I've worked, it's like, oh, this person might be kind of sick. They don't really get their sick time, but like now, I think there might be more of a mandate just to be like, dude, you're going home.
I wonder if we're going to see increases. There's a lot of fascinating stuff to see what happens. I wonder if we're going to see an increase in mandatory or allotted sick days that employers are required to give, or because a lot of the rules right now are based off of like if you have a small business which is classified a couple different ways. If it's like under 50 employees, then as long as you have some kind of PTO program, you don't have to give PTO and sick leave. They can just choose to use those vacation days. However, if you're a larger company, usually you're required to give mandatory. I think it's 3. I have to check though. Don't quote me on any kind of law right now.
Quoting you on it, man.
We're drinking beer.
All right, so that's kind of how the market's going. My other question was, I purchased my condo at the end of 2017, I believe, December 2017. And I was like I might have been the only, I know I definitely was probably the last property that's under 300,000 or less.
Right.
Like the Sunset Beach area.
Yeah. You could back in a few years ago, you could have got some good deals kind of where you're at. And I saw a bunch of people like yourself buying them up left and right, and now they've gone way up in value. So good buy.
Yeah, I'm sitting on like 100,000 grand in equity in like
Crazy,
3 years.
Crazy, right? That's a good deal.
Yeah.
better than any retirement plan or pension or flex option as far as like rate of return in that amount of time, for sure.
Yeah.
Real estate's always going to be, the time old, they're not making any more of it. And it's categorically over time, a long time, not like a year, over time, it always goes up. There's never been a 30-year down cycle of real estate, but you have a 30-year down cycle for Polaroid film or copy paper because we're obviously technology based now. So
yeah, absolutely.
It's very different.
I guess one other question I had in terms of real estate. Real estate,
real estate, baby.
I promise.
It's not the bear. maybe it's actually 14%, and they forget the one they rubbed off as a joke.
Yeah,
it is they did hand write 4%. That could be, and we have no evidence that it says it, and it's not on the bottle because it's a.
They made the mistake on both of the labels.
Yeah, I'm gonna Google this. They might have tricked us.
So I kind of have like a 2-part question. I don't know if you have like an interesting story of buying or selling a home that you can talk about.
Oh God!
Obviously, I know it's a kind of confidentiality to some extent, but obviously don't say
how
down the street.
How interesting do you want? Because oh my goodness, I have like there's like the Bible, and then there's like do you watch Stranger Things? Have you seen that show?
I've seen a couple episodes.
So there's this basically the alternate universe or the dark side of reality. They call it the upside down. So there's the Bible, and then there's my real estate stories, and it's kind of like the upside down basically. But so you're just looking for something that's interesting.
Well, no, anything that you want to share. I put on my paper. I said your first home sale. What was that like? How'd that feel for you? Like
my first home sale.
But I mean, it could just be craziest home sale story.
I feel like
I know when I was renting, I had signed a year lease in this complex, so I just renewed for a year. And like 2 days before before the renewal actually took effect, they're like, oh, we actually want to sell. And then they started I tried to buy it, and they just wanted way too much. They wanted $60,000 more than what I paid for this 6 months before I paid for this one. Same exact unit. Essentially. And it was a very awkward position where you had people trying to show a place when you're still living in it. and not wanting to compensate you or work with you at all. And I knew my rights. I didn't have to show it on weekends. I needed, I think it was 48-hour notice. So I kind of made their life a little difficult.
Showing property when there's it's like quote unquote investment properties when tenants are still in it, you have to be not only do you have to be super careful as the listing agent that's selling it, but you need to be really careful and really, I mean, this is more of an opinion, but you need to be really kind and be in the people's shoes that are still living there. Not a lot of, but some agents, which inevitably is going to be interpreted as a lot because that's actually how I feel, but some agents, the minute they have, their client, who they're selling it for is the one who owns the property. So I've witnessed this, at least in a story sense, is that I guess that's why I feel good enough saying it with what I've seen with some other agents and peers. So they're listing a property and their client is the one who owns it, but obviously there's a tenant living in it, and that agent just kind of treats it like you're just like a pest or a pet that they can just put in a room or whatever. Like you're just like, it's very, I've seen a lot of very inhumane. Sounds harsh because when we think inhumane, we think of someone like beating a dog, but like I think inhumane is when you're not respecting someone's life. I mean, like when you live there, just like I've worked with several other tenants, like I try to make sure I go wildly out of my way to help them because they gotta live somewhere too, and they gotta. And I've actually had tenants
paying rent too, right? I mean,
yeah, I've had tenants that actually turned into my clients because of how well I treated them. I've actually pissed off my own clients before because they were in the wrong in treating their tenant poorly, and like I kind of like people first, not money first. So it all comes from intention and stuff like that. So
I don't think the people that were the agent per se was. I think she was trying to do her job, and I think I was probably trying to make her job difficult because my negotiating tactic and the whole thing was, you're showing the place, I'm paying rent for that day that you're showing it.
Right.
I should get a reduced rent. I didn't sign up for you to try to, you already gave me your lease, work with me, and then they were with her.
You should have prorated her daily, hourly allotment of when she could show, and that was deducted. So you made your like $38 a day off of her or something like that.
and I tried to let them show it on Saturdays, and then I said, "Oh, she's not going to help you." So she said, "Oh, so can I show it Saturday?" I said, "No, the law says it doesn't have to be on a weekend. It's on a weekend. You can't come in." And they're like, I could tell they were annoyed, but it's like, pay me the day that I was not supposed to be there. I had to take my dogs out because I can't have dogs there. Like, it's a huge inconvenience. So, what's your crazy story though? We didn't get to that.
I'm like I think I tried to bury them all so deep that like, because when I think crazy, it's like a trauma at this point. But oh man, my own property that I bought was pretty interesting. Probably one of the most difficult ones. I know just an easy, quick, interesting one for actually one of my first properties I sold. The first buyer I ever helped, he bought a semi-new construction out in Brea. I think the street name was Santa Fe or something like that. And he was so adamant that he had to buy the headboard and bed that he saw online in the listing photos that, I mean, he was crazed about it. So a headboard, I mean, this thing costs like $350, $400, but it was, I'm not buying a $700,000 house if I don't get that headboard. I mean, it's pretty interesting what people, I found that the more money that is involved, you'd think that you'd want to be extra slow, extra rational, extra cautious. People are batshit crazy the more money that's involved. So this guy it's his first purchase he's ever had, and he's willing to throw away the bed. You can still see me? You can still see me the whole time, right?
No, I can't. My dog made like a huge yawn. Yeah. transition in my life.
Wow, my story is that good?
No. My dog's yawn and I'm actually listening.
No, I'm kidding. So long story short, I end up having to buy this guy a bed, and escrow gets delayed, and I have a whole family trip where I'm responsible because I have my wife and I, Melissa, we have a boat, and I'm pulling the boat out and we're taking it to the lake, and this thing's been planned for weeks and weeks and weeks because this escrow is supposed to close. His stuff gets delayed. So another gal that I worked with at the time, I gave her the keys and basically text her. I'm like, hey, I need you to give keys to this guy. I'm not going to be in town. And if you know me, it's actually very unlikely because I'll usually like bend over backwards and like stay back, etc. But in this one scenario, I had like 8 other people that I made commitments and promises to. I obviously wasn't the one that changed the escrow close date. This other person did. So it kind of had to fall on him. But long story short, I guess the bed was supposed to already be there and installed. It wasn't. It was in a box. So I'm getting all these calls from her, and I'm talking her through on the phone how to put this bed from like IKEA together. She was pretty mad, but I brought her some wine. That's like my PG crazy story. But my own personal house was pretty wild. It was supposed to be a 30-day escrow. We ended up closing in, my light. I'm blinking.
Yeah, what's going on?
There. So you
might want to turn it on. You just got a little darker.
Yeah, no, I know. It's okay. Oh, there's better. My escrow was supposed to be like 32 days, and it ended up going over 90 days. I'm a Jesus loving boy all day, but it was just very interesting and funny and ironic. So the people we bought the house from, their names were Mary, Joseph, and Christopher, and they literally like they called him Christ. I mean, it was a whole thing. When we met them, we had to like stand in a prayer circle to ask the Lord to accept us.
Is this your current property, or do you have another house?
The one that I'm in right now. No, the current one I'm in right now. They had to like ask
I dropped off a campaign lawn sign over there, but it was kind of hard to get it. I don't know. It wasn't the best property to put a sign up. But.
I know. I want to, next time I want to put a big one on a big one as a flag, like behind our boat. That'd be really cool too. So yeah, but yeah, so we had Mary, Joseph, and basically almost Jesus were the ones that were in charge of selling us our house. And this gal was super old fashioned. She was like, my dad told me never to sign anything. So if you've ever bought a house, there's a lot of paperwork involved. I mean, tons of disclosures, escrow documents, etc.
5 minutes straight of just signing when I bought mine.
It took us 92 days to close a 30-day escrow because she had to go in person to the escrow office to ask about every individual piece of paper that she ever saw. It was... Melissa was like 7-8 months pregnant. She looked like she was giving birth to the Goodyear blimp. Love you, babe. But like, I mean, she made big babies. I'll prove it someday too, because it was quite a mammal that came out. But yeah, my own was pretty wild. But there's a lot of other stories too, but they're pretty rough and dirty. So I'll leave those ones for another time.
Do you have any other crazy stories from the 11 jobs you had? I was thinking today, because I knew I was going to do this over on a work Zoom call, actually, about like the most interesting jobs I've ever had. Like I worked at like Six Flags before I went to like US.
Did you? That's so cool.
And I worked at like I was so bummed because I'm like, this is so lame. I worked at it was called Coaster Candy in the back of Six Flags Magic Mountain. I was so bummed. And then it ended up being like all the cute girls were at Coaster Candy.
There you go.
In air conditioning, and it worked out to be good. But then my worst job experience by far was I worked at GameStop because I loved like video games when I was in college.
Okay, right.
And I'm never gonna forget this story. We had this guy that like kept on. GameStop's an awful company. Like I'll say it openly.
Yeah, I was trying to like round some edges for you, but like yeah, you just laid out there.
GameStop is truly an atrocious company.
Mm.
So we had this guy that was transferred over into our store. I'm not echoing, am I?
No, you're good.
Okay, maybe it's just I'm hearing myself as I talk, so it's weird. But yeah, we had this guy that was transferring over to our store to be assistant store manager. And for like 5 of 7 straight shifts, or 5 out of 7 shifts, he was like $20 to $100 short, like when he was the manager. So I hadn't worked with him before. I just kept on hearing this from coworkers. And this was like the worst shift by far. Middle of the shift, there's this older lady that comes in. And she's just kind of acting weird around the store. She's like in the Nintendo Wii Xbox section. And she's like coughing like nonstop. And all of a sudden, like, she vomits. She straight vomited in the floor. And I'm just like, oh, man. And then the guy made me clean it up. The guy that was like, kept on being short. So I'm like, figuring out how am I going to clean this? Like,
because that's
I grabbed so many.
Happens at GameStop. So like, you don't have on like if you work in like a veterinary hospital or something, like you probably have supplies like for that. But like, how many people throw up at GameStop?
We had to clean we had stuff to vacuum the carpet and to like clean the windows. So like my like solution short term was to like grab as many paper towels as I could. So I didn't actually touch it. I just felt paper towels. And then I took like glass cleaner and like other disinfectant cleaner and like just doused what was left and then took paper towels again and then took a vacuum over it. And then at the end of the shift, the guy was like, Brian, we're $20 short. Like, if you stole money, I'll go in the back. Just let me know. Like,
wow.
And I said, dude, I didn't steal money. Like, I was actually really mad. I would never steal money. Like, there's a camera right above me. I'd be an absolute idiot to try to pocket $20. Like, even if I wasn't a pocket money, I would only pocket $20.
$20.
He said, come on, Brian. I said, no. Like, I didn't steal money. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I didn't do it. You can pull the film. Like, I've been under, like, a little camera.
Wow.
Yeah. And then, like, I talked to the manager, and the next day I said, this guy's so stupid. Like, you keep on... And she took my word, because there was, like, 5 other incidents.
Yeah.
And he was demoted and then lost all his hours. Pretty much that was it for him. But that was my craziest... probably story in terms of like retail, which I could never do retail again. I don't think. My crazy
perseverance. One of my favorite work story. It's a happy story. It's a good story. And it's funny because I can't remember what I made. I mean, in my mind, it wasn't much. It was a couple bucks then. I think it was like $11 an hour, but it took me. So it was my senior year of high school, and it was, I mean, we're talking, this is like the year 2000, 2001 or something. So everything, all the rage back then was Hurley, Famous Stars and Straps, Billabong, Volcom, and I don't know why, it's just because I love the brand, I guess. I was desperate. I was in music and stuff, so there was a big music scene around those brands. I was desperate and dying to work for Hurley, and it was in Costa Mesa. And I would
keep on telling them to change the H to a B, but no one.
Yeah, right. So I found like where to go and like try and apply and work, and it was some manager. I don't even know what they were for, but basically it was on a I checked in and it was on a Thursday, and I only remember this because of how many Thursdays I had to go. And they're like, I'm like, hey, do you guys have anything available? And it's the only job where I didn't have an objective or a mission where, like, there's a job post and I read what's required of the job and do I meet those qualifications, and then do I write a resume that kind of reflects, those things so you get the job. Well, hoping that you're actually like semi-qualified anyway. It was where I just wanted to work for anything they had, anything that mopping floors, folding sweaters, whatever it was. And they're like, no, and the blah, blah, blah manager's not here. You can try again on Thursday. So I went there like every Thursday for 15 weeks straight. And either on the 15th week, they actually had something, or they just got sick of me coming by. But I went by because on Thursdays I was out of school early or something. I can't remember what it was. And I went by and I'm like, is there anything available? I just want to work here. So eventually, I worked for Hurley, and I only worked there for 4 months, and because they thought I was older, I was 18, but I was technically still in school, and I just did it for summer, and then I went back to school. And they're like, "What do you mean you go back to school?" I'm like, "I'm still in high school." And they're like, "What?" Because they thought I was like a year older or something. I'm like, I don't know. But I worked there for 3 or 4 months, and I loved it because it was like, it was like super hot, sweating. I'm packing boxes for Jack's and for HSS. See, I'm pulling their orders. But I love that job because I share it with a lot of my friends that are like, like in the past, like, "Oh, I'm unemployed, I'm all, what have you done?" Well, I applied to a couple of places, and like that was their whole everything they did. Like they applied, and then that's kind of where they left it, and then they're bummed. I'm like, if you want it, man, you got to go until they call the cops, and they won't let you. So I always tell that story because I was literally just relentless, and then it kind of taught me a lot of things in future jobs, like be willing to do anything. Like I cleaned the floors and did this and that. And now even in jobs where I own businesses, I'm still willing to empty the vacuum and clean the floors and mop because I want my staff to see that, like, oh, even the boss will do that. Kind of if you omit that sense of entitlement, you'll just generally be happier too. So.
No, I totally get that. When I campaigned this last election, people were like, "You're putting your own signs out. You're putting your own signs together." I'm like, yeah.
I thought you killed it, man. Well, regardless of somebody else's voting or their opinion or whatever like that, that's all climate based, and it takes time. People are the most interesting and weirdest animal on earth for sure, by any means. But
well, I've had conversations with people that were involved since then, and it's fair to say we were probably over 20-1.
Right.
And the result wasn't that. And if we weren't outfunded 20-1, it probably would have been
right.
W. But that was
from an outsider. Yeah, but from an outsider's perspective, for me, just knowing you, because Melissa, like obviously you see Melissa a lot more, and I know you via her, et cetera, and in that regard too. But just an outsider's perspective, I was like, oh, okay, I know that guy Brian. I'm going to kind of really far back watch his campaign like I watched a bunch of other people's too. But yours was like ran very well. Most people do not run their campaigns that well, and there's even people that don't run their campaigns that well and then they still win. So it's a real head spinner. But like,
money's important.
Yeah,
it takes if you're not willing to sell yourself out, it takes 2 or 3 elections to really build a network where you can bring in any money. I think now I could fundraise if I decided to do it again, but this isn't a political podcast.
Oh no,
we can talk about politics.
I talk about a ton of stuff very generally because that's life, that's life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on my last pour, I think. Are you?
I'm there. I'll follow you.
All right, so we're on the last pour. I don't know if there's anything that you wanted to bring up.
What did I want to?
These first couple episodes are a little bit more impromptu.
Yeah.
And we're building kind of what we're doing, both on YouTube and on Facebook. So I see your Trojans. Your Trojan sweater. Did you just love them? Did you go there? Are you going there? All the above. I still work there.
Oh, you work there? Okay.
Yeah, I have my business, and then I work at USC, and that was my alma mater.
Nice. And the alma mater.
Dream school. Dream school, and it worked out against all odds. I didn't think it would. It really just pulled the right strings at the right time. Where did you go? Or
all over the map. So I'm actually still actively enrolled, but I haven't been Golden Road. But I haven't been in like a couple years just because I've been so busy with my businesses. So my current last active thing is with Pepperdine University. Before that, I bounced around. I did University of Phoenix for a while. I've got a degree from UTI actually, which was my automotive college, and I did a bunch of specialty stuff beyond that. And then before that, I was actually supposed to go to either Cal State Long Beach or Cal State Fullerton, but I've always been super entrepreneur minded. So whenever there's the typical, like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, I never really had an answer. So I didn't want to like put my parents or myself kind of through the expense of that. I said, I'll just go to JC and get my AA, but I ended up going to like 2 or 3 JCs because like I'd be like starting a business idea, this or that. But now I've got a bachelor's in business management, and then I also have another bachelor's in automotive technology. So, and it's funny because both of those are amazing life skills, but I don't technically have to have them for anything I'm doing now, but I wouldn't change anything. So it's funny because I talked to my wife about like one of my things I'm always considering doing is either getting and finishing with Pepperdine my MBA, or I've always talked about getting my JD, Juris Doctorate. And Melissa's like, if you become an attorney, I'll kill you. She thinks I'd be amazing at it, but she doesn't want to be with that person that I would have to be if I was a very specific attorney. So if I could be like the Aloha Hawaiian attorney or something, like very chill, but she knows that when I'm on a project, I'm very driven to finish it. So I would have to avoid all conflict, and I don't think you can do that as an attorney entirely. But I mean, I think the premise of being an attorney is there's some kind of rub somewhere. That's why they're needed, right? So
you named a number of colleges. I don't know if you said you went there. You were thinking. I actually went to Cal State Fullerton for a year and a half, and then I went to all of them at some point. I didn't go to Cal State Long Beach. I was like approved and enrolled there, but I ended up not going, and then I backed out, and I just went to. So I've been to El Camino College, I've been to Coastline Community College, I've been to Golden West, I've been to OCC, because I would stop and start because of work or something I was doing. I went to UTI, Cal State Fullerton, and then University of Phoenix. How many of these did you get a degree from?
What'd you say?
How many of these colleges did you get a degree from?
So I finished. One of them was UTI, which is it's a technical school, but they offer a program where you can bachelor through it as well. And that was a lot. It was 2 years year round. It was a ton of school. 2 years year round, 7-hour days, and then I would drive back home and then still work full time and like get off at like 10 or 11, sleep for like 5 hours, wake up at 4 a.m. and go do it again. But it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. And thinking back, all of that led to my automotive career, which then led to my city job, which then led to the money in the pension, which then opened Posh Pooch, which then gave me the time and opportunity of running my own business to then get into real estate. Like if I really worked the math backwards, like none of it was like an accident. It all beautifully happened in its own unpredictable way. So yeah.
You mentioned a number of things, but I was thinking about all the colleges, and since we're having a beer, cheers again.
Cheers.
Do you have a crazy college story? I've got one that I can think of that some of my roommates might remember, where we were in the dorms, and we had maybe a little bit of alcohol. And I was super tired. It was like 3 a.m, and there was a ping pong table, and we were playing, and all we had was a cup of noodles. So my friend's making a cup of noodles. We're playing beer pong. Oh, probably were earlier, but we were playing ping pong. And we're looking for the ball, and I'm just like tired. So I just like lay on the ping pong table, and then I just like let go, and the ping pong table just.
Oh no!
And
the night was done. Oh,
this isn't even that crazy of a story, really. But my friend took a couple of noodles out of the microwave that was right by the ping pong table and was running with it. Because we were like freaking out because we thought we broke the table, and he's burning himself with this cup of noodles.
It's hot when it comes out, yeah.
Yeah, and then this was the floor underneath where we lived, so you could like see down from the 4th floor, like in the common area. And the next morning, my friend was like, "What in the heck did you guys do?" And I was like, the cutest girl on the floor. So I was like, Burley jumped. He jumped on that ping pong. From here to there. It was like this whole. She's like, he did, and I'm like, yeah. and then like eventually.
So you invented the whole jump table dive thing that we all see now on the internet.
It wasn't real. No, it's just like a story my friend made up, and the table was fine actually. Just like I had pushed it, I had like unlocked it, and then I just like.
Oh, and then it collapsed down how it's supposed to, but it looked amazing.
It looked like it. It looked like it was busted, and like that my tuition was gonna go to buy a new ping pong table.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
I don't know if you have any crazy. That's not even that crazy. I probably have crazier stories than that, but it's not like.
Mine was like a missing identity / I avoided a fight. It was the typical college. It's funny because I have a shirt from some guy that I never met, which is what? Explain. So it was like my first like toga party, right? It wasn't a school that I went to. It's a school that one of my friends went to. It was actually how I eventually got to and toward Cal State Fullerton. So it was a Cal State Fullerton get together party, and I don't know.
Nice campus.
Yeah.
That campus.
Yeah. So I don't know what exactly happened, which is part of the whole the mistaken identity thing. So I didn't always have like a little bit of facial hair. I was very young looking or whatever. And I guess someone at the party was with a girl and they saw someone else kissing this girl or making out, whatever. Just college party, right? And I guess the guy, like the boyfriend or whatever, he was intoxicated, obviously, and had some beers probably. Supposedly, the other guy that he saw looked similar to me, but I had just got there. I had just got there with my friends, and he was like grizzly eyes. He was like, "It was you," and I'm like, I've never met any of these people. I got invited to this party. I got invited to this party. I don't even go to school. I don't even know the group, and so he's chasing me out, and I guess as like kind of like. Not like amazing. It goes from basically like the kitchen to like the front yard. And as we run out, he actually sees his girl kissing the other guy that supposedly looks like me. I'm like, it's not me. See, it's him. And he's like, ugh. He was like still mad, but then he obviously stormed off and, fought with his girlfriend.
You're okay.
But I was okay. But like at the time, right now, I do a ton of weight training, and I'd like to think that I could peacefully navigate and keep myself together. But back then, man, you could a hard breeze and I would have blown over. I was a tall, skinny stick. And this guy was like the
kid that was that he thought
I was Gumby. I was Gumby, and this guy was like
the guy that was actually like
the guy that was angry. He was
Did
Mr.
that guy look like your twin though?
He did look very similar. He did look very similar.
Oh.
Like the same hair. I used to have like my hair like forward and kind of spiked in the front, and this guy had the same hair. Everyone's in a toga, so everyone looks the same. They're all in a toga, right? So another tall, skinny, dark-haired guy with spiky hair and like a little bit of sideburns was kissing his girl. Apparently, it wasn't his girl, but
I can't blame him for getting upset. But I got to find the right person.
Yeah, exactly. But
I don't want to keep you forever. I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties. I don't know if there's anything you want to hop on about.
No, man. I mean. What's your, I guess this is more of just a life question for the situation going on right now. It's not really political, but I guess when do you see, I guess, everything kind of opening back up? And do you have any feelings one way or the other on how it should, I guess, kind of, sort of? I mean, what are you hoping happens, I guess?
We talked about in last week's episode 1 about what is our limit, what is society's limit, and like our individual limit of that will stay at home. And I said July 1st because you got to have a July 4th, otherwise you're going to have all those protesters down at the pier times 100. Because I might be with them because I'm like, this is like going on.
I need 4th of July. Yeah, I need my 4th of July.
Patrick said that it was. He said like. July 15th, he said, I can do without the Huntington Beach craziness on 4th of July, which I also kind of get that too. But
it's so funny how Huntington turns into such a hot spot too. That's always been my observation too. Like, obviously every city does like a parade, or does like, something for 4th of July. But I feel like a lot of out-of-towners influx to Huntington. I don't feel they do the same to Laguna Beach or to Dana Point or to Costa Mesa.
They don't.
I always thought it was super interesting how much. And I wonder, like, is it sheer just math? Is it just because we have a longer beach and more parking? Or
I might not be able to confirm it, but I thought we had the biggest parade west of the Mississippi.
West of the Mississippi, yep, that's true.
So, I mean, that's big. Our fireworks shows. I used to live in Michigan, so I mean, we had some good ones on the lakes there, but
gotcha.
I think Huntington's the best I've had. I've been to the one in San Pedro, where you see San Pedro's, but the spectacle of it is you can see everybody's from San Pedro.
Right.
Like Anaheim, the Disneyland one. You can see the Huntington one. You can see the Long Beach one. Because you're on that like edge of that cliff.
A little like peninsula.
Santa Monica.
Yeah. Pretty cool.
Yeah, but in terms of when we're going to start to get open, I don't know. I mean, the conversations, a little bit about my job. Besides my business on the side, but at USC, I'm a system administrator, but I also support the classrooms. And they're now talking about like fall being online, like the fall semester.
The fall semester potentially being online.
Yeah, like summer's already decided it's going to be online.
So is the school basically? I mean, is there? I assume, but I don't like assuming.
From home.
There's just no kids in any. There's no asses in seats anywhere at school.
No, I mean it was going to end. This week would have been the last week of like official classes and finals.
That's crazy.
So they just stopped for like a month. So summer is always limited in general. So they just send them all online. I'm cool with that. But apparently they're having discussions now of fall not actually being in person, which means we wouldn't have been in person from March until maybe, if it goes through the whole year, January. I don't know. I've also gotten into a lot of arguments with people because I feel like people are arguing. Look on my Facebook feed, my personal Facebook feed, of like how I posted like a picture of the protests this week, and I actually supported it because like people are just getting tired. Like enough is enough. Like at some point, I think you got to go back to normal. You got to be like,
well, and there's so much blended. It's kind of I try to stay not necessarily neutral, because to me sometimes neutral is a not deciding one thing or the other. It can be viewed that way. I try to stay empathetic to everyone to a degree, but I of course still will have an educated opinion of how I feel, and I can still disagree with someone, but still feel for them and put them in my shoes. I guess that's in my mind anyway, that's the best version of being, politically kind as I could be, even though I'm not in politics. But there's danger, and then there's fear. Danger is real. Fear is manufactured and made up. So there's some legitimate dangers, and we had those, high alert precautions those first couple of weeks, and now we have tons and tons and tons and tons and tons more data. And yes, it's more contagious, but also from a sheer number standpoint, it's not like, the movie Outbreak with Dustin Hoffman, where like, if you look outside, you die. You know what I mean? So there's also a lot. I'm also, since I'm so big into like, I'm also super big into like health and fitness too. And my wife and I are very big on this too, that like, if you live in a bubble, then the minute you go outside, you can get sick. So your body does need to build up antibodies and antigens, etc. And there's a lot of mixed emotions on it, but like there's not technically a lot of mixed science on it. Like the data and the science show that, that's how, like when you're a little kid and you're putting dirt in your mouth and walking around with your bare feet and stuff. I mean, if you never left a bubble and then you turned 18, you would literally die of the common cold your first day out of the box. So I've been watching and reading a lot of stuff from afar, and a lot of it's been around the medical field, not necessarily the political field, but the medical field, saying, hey, if you're locked down too long, and you're over sanitizing every part of everything you do, then you're not getting those antibodies anymore. So
and then they'll get all those people that said, "Oh, this is the world's most dangerous thing ever."
Right.
They'll use that as their.
I think. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I was just gonna say I thought May 1st was the point where you start opening things up. I think I probably is an unpopular opinion, but I don't see any difference between having 25% occupancy in our restaurants and takeout, because those people are still touching the food.
Oh, I'm seeing people congregate and picnicking all together just outside. So it's like, whether the breeze is inside of people themselves, even the ones that are abiding by those rules, they're still making their own version of normal, which is going to gravitate toward other people. People don't want to be alone. I mean, that's just.
But the answer to your question of when, and I would like to hear your answer too, of when things are going to open up fully or even partially at this point. Newsom has said I'm not trying to get political, and I pulled my punches at Newsom as of late. Not pulled, thrown. Is that he's going to wait with Oregon and Washington. Whatever he does, it's going to be a coalition between those three states. Well, I thought I read something that Oregon's waiting until July 6th or something crazy. I just don't get it. And the whole beach closure thing where he targeted Orange County, I just didn't agree with. But that's a whole other topic. So I think we have a real danger of people waiting 18 months to find a vaccine before we go fully back to normal. And that is just something that I won't accept. I don't care, what kind of position we're in. We can't.
I'm such a big advocate now in my life anyway about there's nothing more important to me than time. No amount of money, no amount of, success or this or that. So, but I want to have valuable time and safe time, with my family. But 18 months is 18 months is a large percentage of my livable life, in my opinion. A couple months, it's a long time, but it's not astronomical. So a couple months is like a summer abroad, I guess, right? 18 months is doing time. Is kind of how I mentally think of it, right? And
that's where people are at now. I think they're
I'm not like a coder. I'm not writing code at home. That's not my thing. So I've had the most, not fun. Fun's a terrible way of wording it, but I've had a great time. This has been my most interesting time to sit back and observe people. Hey, bud. Hi. I've had the most interesting time sitting back and observing people. And all of even if I'm looking at just 10 different individuals on my own social media or just general, I'll look at those 10 people and how they were acting, behaving, and posting week 1, week 2, 3, 4, 5. Where are they at now? And it's been fascinating to watch how they've shifted. And pretty much all of them are shifting toward getting back to normal. Some are much more conservative about it, and some are dude, let's just go out and have beers. Let's live life again. So, and it's I don't personally have anyone in my life or know anyone that is or that got it or got sick or whatever. So, I will admit that for the first 2 weeks, I kind of had the ultra invisible fear, and then I've scaled back to not being as afraid and just being aware that there was relative danger. And now any course of my day now is really just me placating toward, okay, if I go out and about, how comfortable is that crowd? If that place I go needs me to wear a mask, I'll wear a mask. But I'm not, because I know I'm not sick and I'm staying at home all the time because I'm required to. So it's so me thinking of when it'll open up. I'm hoping it's in the June something. But as terribly, I'm a super optimist. So as terribly cynical as it sounds, though, I'm required to rely on other people for my analysis to come true, and that sadly is not one of my fortes of relying on other people successfully.
No, it's my biggest fear is that people will just be like, yeah, until we get a vaccine. Dude, no, I'm not waiting that long. That's
man,
crazy.
Yeah, I haven't gone down the rabbit hole of the super math on it, like where the printed money is or isn't coming from, how long unemployment lasts for such a large scale of people, because there isn't that large of an unemployment fund from employers, I assume, for that long of a period of time for their whole staff across a whole county, across a whole city, a whole state, etc., in every occupation almost.
I don't think that will be 18 months of looking at that. I mean, I could be wrong, but if we don't get back to normal, people aren't going to get the economy going, so those jobs won't come back like in a reasonable amount of time. So
yeah,
we're looking at probably a huge recession. Is what I think, maybe January of next year, because I think it's going to take this year to kind of like figure out what the heck is going on, because like there's no pathway of like how we're supposed to handle this, and we're also in uncharted territory.
I will say that 2020 has had the best memes so far, because you have everyone that's like, oh, 2020 vision. Like, did you see this coming? And, everyone coming out of 2019, like 2020 is going to be the best year ever. And then every meme that follows. My favorite one, it's funny. It's not meant to be, it's not gender specific. It's just the meme that I saw. It's something like, all the girls that bought their their planners for 2020, they're all throwing them out because there's so many months that are just going to be missing. Like, well, there's no more planning 2020 anymore, so it is what it is. But,
yeah, I mean, this year's just going to be looked back at it like an interesting period of time. Like for me, I'll tell my if I'm alive, for my grandchildren.
Right.
Like, yeah, this was the year of.
So you got to decide if you're going to build it up like every dad or granddad has like that story where it's like the fish that was
back
really
in my
big.
day.
Like I went to school with one shoe in the snow uphill, and like we got.
We couldn't go to the beach for 2 weeks. It was awful.
Yeah, it was years before I saw sand again. Oh my god! Wow, really? Yeah, the sky was red and.
So tired of throughout like this last week. I'm sure you saw the protests, which I feel people overreacted to.
You saw? I'm assuming you saw and heard the chopper going by, right?
I was in the ocean on the night that it was all happened, like the night that we closed it.
Gotcha.
Or the day after, and like there was choppers going by above me. They weren't bugging me. I don't think they're really enforcing it, but.
Yeah, and I see. Obviously, seeing media news is its own thing. So like that's why I look at a lot of it, and I hope that like if I see 10 things, then maybe I can actually put the Picasso painting of what like is actually reported together. But I've kind of seen, I think, and observed that there may be quote unquote implementations that are supposed to happen, but they're just not like they're not ticketing / enforcing in that way. They're just like, you shouldn't be here. The end. But the thing I guess that I don't really have a lot of understanding on is with it, is it in relation to like I would think that rationally it's like if you have a large group of people together close, not social distancing. I hate that word that it's invented even, by the way. Like I would understand if they're all close together, that shouldn't happen. But like to not be just because are people basically just not generally allowed to be on the sand at all? Like that's. And from what I'm hearing,
it's been open until Newsom took what I thought was a tyrannical, decision to close down just Orange County and not any other beach. I don't think he has authority to close down any beach, but he should have called the leaders in Huntington Beach and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna go crazy and do this if you don't do something." But he didn't do that. It was.
Do we call it since we're Sunset Beach? Do we call ourselves unincorporated? And then we just go.
It's been incorporated since what officially?
I know. 2011, I think. I know. I try to just.
Well, I thought 2011, and there was 2 years of lawsuits. I thought I was told.
Yeah. Oh, you're right. Yeah, you're right. I didn't own here then, but I knew it was basically like it hit like 2011. But yeah, there was a couple of years of lawsuits.
Yeah. So.
Interesting.
It'll be crazy. One thing I was going to say that I'm tired of is people saying, I don't know if this is causing a little bit of echo, my beer bottle or beer glass right next to the mic. Oh, you sound so privileged being by the beach and like throwing a fit for not being able to go.
Right.
speech. And I'm just like, that's not even what it's about, like at all. Like, and at what point do we say this is society? Like, you're privileged to say that just because you want to stay home, that everybody else has to. That just because you want to wear a mask to feel safe, everybody else has to. One thing, hey, you want to be just a human being, encourage your fellow neighbor to wear a mask. But like when you start telling people what they have to do, I think that's where things get kind of dangerous.
Right. Yeah, this is a super interesting observation of liberties and freedoms, and it's actually made me really want to. I'm not naive to it now, but it's made me want to really deep dive more into kind of like our government policies and stuff, as far as like what are, like basically like what the current and historical law specifically says about our freedoms and liberties and access, etc. Before, I've always just it's kind of a general, I went about my life, I know that it's America, and like for the most part it's a pretty dang free country. I mean, it's wildly free. But right now, for a lot of people, they're going, holy crap, it's really not feeling free right now. So it's actually made me want to be more, I don't know if this is the exact word I'm thinking, but I think we'll get to it. It's made me want to be more politically aware and more in tune. Kind of like people, I want to be more observant and more educated, even more than I was before. Before, I was generally very educated in the sense of, how it affected business and properties, etc. But now, since it's so widespread into life, like I've got staff that are not in a negative way, quote unquote, on me, but they're staff that, may, not have a ton of income or live paycheck to paycheck, or they live in an expensive area and they're, and they're like a part-time worker for me. We're doing everything we can to make sure that we can still pay them even during this. So I'm seeing other people that are really close and in our lives, like hardcore affected by this. And it's kind of making me go, ooh, I want to be more well-versed in the like human element of our freedoms and liberties, and not just the business sense. So I don't know how else to describe it other than I want a deeper level of knowledge of our political policies because of everything going on, than just how, because I'm very well versed in it as far as like, how it helps businesses and stuff like that. But I'm more interested in the, survival mode of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are not arguing based on data and science anymore, and it's more out of fear. And
right.
That's a real danger. I'm pretty much done with this, so if you want to call it a podcast, thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
Well, it's not having me on. I think I've done that 2 episodes in a row. So thank you for having me on.
Glad to have you. Glad to have you, bud. Well, when I repost this, I was glad to have you, and it'll be my podcast when I post it. But for now, it'll be your podcast. With that.
So yeah, this was the 2nd episode of A Beer with Burley, and make sure to like and subscribe on Facebook, and as well as on YouTube. And we'll have another episode next week. Thank you.
Awesome. Great hanging, bud. Cheers, man. Stay safe.
Cheers, you too. All right, well, I can stop on that.